Hi, welcome to my video. Today I am discussing the 7 biggest blocks to self-love, and I'm going to kickstart this topic today just by reading to you a poem by a very famous lady, a lady who could in a very short time from now be the next US president. She is huge in personal development. Her name is Marianne Williamson, and she is a very powerful lady, full of knowledge and wisdom, and I love her. This poem that I'm going to read to you is kind of touching upon the 7 blocks that I'm going to be moving on to in the video. It's called Our Deepest Fear. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, and fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking, so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It's not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. One sentence for me, which really goes deep, is your playing small does not serve the world. When we play small and when we put ourselves down, when we self-deprecate, we are not doing anyone any favors, let alone ourselves. It's a bit like, you know, when someone gives you a compliment and they go, oh, you're really good at that. You know, that was an amazing meal you cooked, or oh wow, how did you do that? How did you get that result? You're amazing. When they compliment you in some way and they make you stand out, we all have a kind of tendency to play it down and go, oh well, you know, it wasn't that hard, or oh yeah, thanks. You know, we sort of we don't like to be in the limelight. We don't like to be the center of attention, and that comes from a very young age. When you think about, you know, songs on the radio that you listen to, or movies that you watch that you find really uplifting and inspiring, or books that you read, whenever you're being exposed to that kind of material that's inspiring, just think for a minute, all of these people, song artists, songwriters, dancers, actors, actresses, people who are famous, people who are successful, that is what they are doing. They are following their dreams, and that is why we get so inspired by them. That is why we put them on a pedestal and we think, wow, you know, you're incredible. And the biggest block when it comes to us fulfilling our dreams and living our life's purpose and our destiny is not loving ourselves, not appreciating who we are. That is the wall, the brick wall that prevents us from doing that. So these 7 blocks that I'm now going to start discussing, what I would like you to do with them, and the biggest takeaway from this video, is for you to really think about how these blocks affect your own life and what results they are preventing you from achieving when you apply them in certain ways. And I'm going to be giving you examples and really helping you through this, so there's no pressure. I know from personal experience with myself and with clients that these 7 blocks I'm about to give you to achieving self-love, when you make just the smallest adjustments here and there, the little tweaks, small little incremental changes in the way that you start to view yourself and communicate with yourself about different things on a daily basis, the results and the shifts that you will start to experience are miraculous. They really are, and it will have a domino effect and a rippled impact on all areas of your life, on your finances, on your level of confidence, your relationships, the people in your life, the way you communicate with them, the way they start respecting you and looking at you in a different light. And there's nothing scary about it. As Marianne Williamson says in her poem, our greatest and deepest fear of all is that we are amazing beyond measure. The first biggest block to achieving self-love is anger. Anger with self over things that we have not achieved in our life. We all set goals for ourselves that we don't achieve. We all have a habit of setting sometimes big goals, really, really unrealistic goals for ourselves, and then not fulfilling them. And what happens is, over time, when we don't achieve these things, we start to get quite frustrated with ourselves and we start to get quite angry. And it leaves us in a place of unfulfillment. And what that does is, over time, we start to have a conversation with ourselves that goes something like, oh, well, there's no point setting any more goals, is there? Because you're not going to achieve them. You know you're not. You said that you'd have achieved that by now and you haven't. So what's the point in setting any other goals or having any other type of dreams and ambitions? The second biggest block to achieving self-love is resentment towards others. Now, this second block is an extension on block 1, simply because when we do carry anger and resentment and frustration towards ourselves, after a while, what tends to happen is, because this negative energy has nowhere to go, we will then start projecting it onto our external environment and circumstances, and of course the people in our lives. Because of this build-up, this backlog of emotion, we start to blame other people for why we can't do certain things. So let's say, for example, you want to change career paths, or there's a certain job that you would love to do, that you would dream of doing. You think that would be the ideal job for me. But the hours would clash with your partners. And let's say that, maybe you've got kids, or maybe, just the idea of having vastly different hours would mean that you didn't have enough time to spend together. So you start to blame your partner, and you say, this is just a random example, by the way, and you say something like, well, the reason why I can't go for this opportunity, or say study at an evening class, is because then I wouldn't have any time with my partner. And what happens is, you actually start to then turn resentment towards them, and you actually start to blame other people in general for things that you can't do. And we all do this. We all blame circumstances that we are currently in for the reason why we can't do stuff. And the way in which that is a big block to self-love is because by doing that, we are externalizing our own fears and our own negative feelings about ourselves onto others, and we're using those circumstances as a smokescreen which prevent us from actually taking responsibility and saying, right, well, you know what, if I actually really wanted to do something about that, I can, and I'm going to. So that is in itself a big block. The third biggest block to achieving self-love is the way other people treat us. The way other people treat us has a huge impact on how we feel about ourselves. So, giving you another example, let's say that a person has been in a series of relationships, and every single person that, let's say it's a woman, that woman has been in, every relationship, every man that she's been with has cheated on her. The relationship starts out quite well. They have the honeymoon period. It's all flowers and romance and, oh my gosh, wow, this could be the one. And then after a certain amount of time, he starts kind of going silent for no reason. And there's this pattern that keeps emerging. And then it it turns out that he's actually cheating on her. And this happens in every single relationship that she's in. There's always this turning point, and it turns out that he's lying to her, he's being deceitful, and he's found someone else. What happens at that point is, after a series of negative experiences with relationships or maybe even careers, it could be a similar pattern where the job always turns out to be not quite what the person had hoped. This starts to have a direct impact on our self-esteem and on our self-worth, and makes us question what's wrong with us. We start to look in the mirror and think, right, well, there's something wrong with me here, because I'm the common denominator. I'm, the common factor in all of this. And if I keep getting cheated on, or if I keep losing jobs, or losing interest in my jobs, or my boss being an arse, or whatever it is, there's something wrong with me. When we have these repeating patterns over and over and over, it ingrains into our mind that that's just the way things are, and that the chances of it being any different are very slim. From a law of attraction perspective, what that does is it starts to create a self-fulfilling prophecy, because we start to preempt that these negative circumstances and results and outcomes are going to just be how it is. Before we've even given those new experiences and those new situations a chance to actually unfold, we've already damned them and said right from the word go, well, chances are it's probably not going to last very long, because it never has before. And that is a big block to self-love, because the conversation that we're having with ourselves, the energy, the vibe that we're giving out to the universe and to the people in our lives is one of failure. And that brings me on to the next biggest block to achieving self-love, which is a closed heart. Now, when we have had a lot of upset in our lives, and we've been hurt by a lot of people, and we've been made to feel like we're just not good enough, and that there's something fundamentally wrong with us, we're not clever, we're not attractive, we're just not confident enough, and certain opportunities aren't meant for us. What happens is our heart, and this is scientific fact actually, the heart, what it does is it's like if you imagine your heart is the size of your fist, okay, and it closes as a protection mechanism and as a coping strategy. What the heart will do is it will physically start to close, and it starts to carry a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress and a lot of tension, because what it's doing is, when the expression of my heart feels like it's fluttering, my heart feels like it's glowing with happiness. Have you ever had an experience where you felt so happy and so joyful, your heart is literally singing? Well, the opposite of that is when you feel like your heart's breaking, or when you feel like your heart is it feels as heavy as a stone. That's the opposite. That is the example of when your heart feels closed, because it's a physical sensation, and your heart will respond accordingly based on the emotions that you're experiencing. And after a while, when you've had nothing but upset and hurt and disappointment, and experienced failure and all these different things in certain areas of your life, your heart will actually close. And what that does is it prevents you from trusting. It prevents a person from feeling like that there is any luck, or there is any hope or abundance or opportunity out there waiting for them. The idea of success and the idea of new love and abundance and prosperity, whatever it is that a person wants, because of so much disappointment, as a protection mechanism, they close their heart. They close their heart, and even though, yes, there's evidence of good things around them, they're not open to it. And what that does in terms of love, whether it be self-love, love from another person, being able to give love and receive love and new opportunities, it's a brick wall. It's a big barrier that is saying, do not come any further because I do not want to be hurt. So it blocks the chance of anything good flowing into your life, because you've put the barriers up before anything can even find its way to you initially in the first place. And that, of course, then creates a sense of, well, I'm not worthy and I'm not deserving of anything good to come in, because whenever I've had it before, it's always turned out bad. And a really good example of this is when we have something really good happen to us. Like, let's say we have a really good stroke of luck, and it could be, let's say, a financial windfall, or meeting someone new and getting into a new relationship. When you have a spell of, good things happening, have you ever had a feeling of, oh no, when is the other shoe gonna drop? How long is this gonna last for? Has that thought ever entered your mind? Well, if it has, then that is a sign that your heart might be closed to a degree. And the reason being is because there is a part of you that feels too vulnerable to open up and trust that what good is finding its way into your life is actually meant for you. The ability to be able to trust and accept that, yes, I am worthy of this, and I'm deserving. I am good enough to accept this and receive it. That could be a block for you when it comes to accepting the good in your life, attracting more of it, and actually being able to say to yourself, this is mine, like this is mine by divine right, and I am worthy of this, and I am good enough for it. So that is the fourth biggest block to achieving self-love. The fifth biggest block to achieving self-love is when we try harder. When we are put under the spotlight and we are expected to shine and perform in a certain way, it can be really difficult at times. And what happens is, we not only do we tend to beat up on ourselves if we maybe say something silly or we make a clumsy mistake, but we try harder and we try to be perfect and put pressure on ourselves in a way that is just completely not necessary. And that comes from a place of self-criticism and self-deprecation, and actually a bullying tone within us that says, you better not make that same mistake again, because if you do, then you're completely worthless and you're stupid and you're never ever going to get anything right. So at this point, you'll probably see where a lot of these blocks are feeding into each other, and they are all very relative. There's no doubt going to be some that are standing out more for you, but in terms of trying harder, what happens is, I'll give you a brief story with, for example, my YouTube videos. I've been doing YouTube videos now since 2015, on and off. And the reason I've been on and off with them is because at one point I was terrified of getting in front of the camera and talking the way I'm talking now. And I would be terrified of saying the wrong thing and looking stupid, my hair, being out of place, and all these little things I used to think of. Oh, I can't do that. I can't get in front of the camera. It's too scary. There's no point. Like, Holly, don't. And I would get myself worked up into such a state before I got in front of the camera that I would have talked myself out of doing it before I'd even pressed record. And if I did actually get to the point where I pressed record, afterwards what would happen is I would go through the video, and even if there was some really good stuff in there, content and things that I'd said that I thought, yeah, wow, that's really good, I would still dismiss it, and I'd say, you know what, it's all shit, it's complete crap, Holly, just trash it. And I would keep trying and trying and trying and trying, and in the end, I would get myself so worked up and so nervous and so in a state where I'd be swearing and huffing and puffing, that in the end, nothing that I did was right. But the good thing now is because I picked up on that, I realized that I was actually digging myself into a deeper hole by trying harder and harder and trying to be perfect. And trying harder and being a perfectionist is one of the biggest blocks to self-love there is, because what it does is it robs us from any sense of progress that we might be making. So that is another huge block and an example of how we get in our own way all the time. The sixth biggest block to achieving self-love is that self-love is selfish. When we are small children, we are told that we need to put other people before ourselves, that we need to share, that we need to be kind to others, and the idea of doing anything for ourselves and keeping something for us, just for us, and looking after our own needs, we're kind of discouraged in many ways from doing that. What we all have to remember is that self-love is a basic human need. We all need to have a sense of appreciation for ourselves and to be able to fulfill our own needs, because when we do that, we can be better people, we can be better friends, partners, colleagues, bosses, children, siblings. We can just be better all round when we're in a happier mood, when we've had enough rest, when we've had enough relaxation, when we are achieving goals and we're feeling just overall fulfilled in our lives. When we have that essence and that aura about us where we are good within ourselves, we have so much more to contribute. And I have done another video talking all about why self-love is the opposite of selfish, and I'll include the link below just in case that is a video that you'd like to check out, because it does go more in depth about this. But self-love is not selfish. Self-love is something that we all need to practice more and more of, because when we do, we are better people for it. Think about the last time that you were in a really bad mood. When you're in a really bad mood, are you good company? Are you a good energy to be around, or do you just feel like you don't want to talk to anyone, you've got nothing to say, and you just want to be by yourself and do your own thing? That's an example of when perhaps you're not fulfilling your own needs in a way that you need to. You're not loving yourself or giving yourself the time and the nurture that you're really deep down needing. And what happens is that snowballs and gets to a point where you're frustrated and you're feeling like, you know what, everyone just leave me alone because I need to be with me right now. That is an example of you not giving yourself the love and the attention that you need. And it gets to a stage where your inner being says to you, hey, hello, excuse me, I need some attention here. And that could be emotionally, it could be mentally, sometimes even physically, where you're just maybe completely exhausted and all you can think about is going home, having something to eat, and then passing out in front of the TV or going to bed and getting an early night. So the sixth biggest block to achieving self-love is the idea that self-love is selfish. And that comes from other people, but you know what? Don't listen to them, because when you are the best version of you, you have so much more to offer. The seventh and the last biggest block to achieving self-love is the negative beliefs that are installed in us from children. So a good example of this would be money doesn't grow on trees. Okay, money doesn't grow on trees is a really popular saying. We hear this from a young age, you know, when we want a toy or a sweet or something, and we say, oh, can I have that? And our mum or dad will say to us, no, you can't. And then we might, you know, have a tantrum and go, well, why, you know, why can't I have that? And we kick off about it. And our parents will say something like, well, you know, money doesn't grow on trees. Money's not easy to come by. What that does is create a perception that if we want to have anything good in our lives, we have to work really hard, and we have to suffer, and we have to sacrifice, and we have to do things that we don't want to do, that we don't enjoy. And if we are going to have anything good in our lives, then we need to really look after it, and we need to really appreciate and treasure it, because tomorrow it might not be there. From a spiritual perspective, what that is doing is, and this also links in with the fourth block of a closed heart, is where we don't trust that we are being looked after, and that we are going to be fully supported by life, by the universe, by God. We then live our lives from a place of not trusting anyone around us, not trusting ourselves to be able to fulfill our own goals, our own ambitions and dreams, not believing that we have what it takes to go the distance and be the people that we want to be. So that is the seventh biggest block to self-love, the belief that life is hard, life is difficult, and that everything is a challenge, and if we want it, we've got to bust our asses to get it, when actually it's not necessary, because evidence shows us, and I know that you know this from experience, when we have good days, when we have moments in our lives where everything just seems to go so well and so swimmingly, how hard is that? It's effortless, it's easy, and this is how our life is meant to be. Life is meant to be enjoyable. Life is meant to be a breeze. We weren't put on this earth to struggle. So those are my 7 biggest blocks to achieving self-love, and these blocks are blocks that have come up time and time again for people that I have worked with all around the world, and for myself as well. So I know that when it comes to achieving self-love, if self-love has been an ongoing issue for you, then when you take even just 1 or 2 of these blocks and start working with them, and see how on a daily basis they might be popping up for you in your own life, you will start to feel and see for yourself amazing shifts taking place in all areas. And whatever your goal is right now, whatever your biggest struggle is, really start to use these blocks as your springboard, if you like, as to how you can make these tiny little changes in the relationship that you're having with yourself. Because remember, the most important relationship that you will ever have is with yourself. The way you talk to yourself, the way you feel about yourself, the way you see yourself is going to have such a huge influence over the person that you're being in this world, and what you're capable of, what your future holds for you. If self-love is something that you are determined to master, and something that you really want to incorporate more of into your life, then check out my link below, because I have developed a program and a process called the Law of Attraction Miracle Process. It is a program that will help you step by step to not only master self-love, but also use it in conjunction with the law of attraction, so that you are able to start manifesting huge transformation and results in your life practically on autopilot. It has worked amazing magic for my clients and for myself personally. So please do check out the link below, and let's go deeper with this conversation and start creating the life of your dreams together. Thank you very much for watching my video. Take care, and I will speak with you very, very soon.